Welcome, dear brothers and sisters in Christ. Through this book, Bouncing Back, let us all journey the path that will lead to God, the only source of true and eternal happiness. There are so many things that we must be thankful for. Happiness cannot be found in earthly things. There are so many reasons to be thankful for: life, family, health, good people around us, all contributing to our peace, to our happiness, to our fulfillment, and adherence to our higher purpose. There is need to wonder about everything and anything because only in becoming conscious of the wonders of anything around us, this is the only way we can appreciate God's wisdom, God's faithfulness, and God's promise. The book will immortalize the character of Joseph, fifth among the eight children of a fisherman and a fish vendor. Joseph's family is literally poor, for they lack all the things that an ordinary child or family enjoys. Joseph finished elementary without a single memory of having any member of the family that taught him lessons and other schoolworks because they were busy earning a living in order to feed and raise their children. At an early age, they learned to survive in whatever ways possible just to feed an empty stomach, for there was none to assist and help. Joseph's mother got sick with ovarian cancer, and he was left alone in their lonely house because his mother was accompanied by his father and his other siblings while undergoing the treatment process. To survive, Joseph sold tinapa and a lot of stuff to support himself, his other siblings, and his family. People laugh and make fun of him, but he didn't care. His experience taught him to be determined, independent, to rely on his God-given talents, and to follow his heart. Because Joseph's parents cannot send their children to school, his mother made the toughest decision a mother can make. Even if the pain was unbearable seeing her children live and continue their lives separated from them, she decided to send them to her brothers, who during that time were well-to-do and can support their nieces and nephews in their studies. Even if they move to their relatives, they still need to work. There are a lot of challenges, sacrifices, pains, and frustrations. When Joseph evaluates his life, he questions God. For him, yes, they are poor, but they remain faithful to God. They live a life of character and they remain true to their virtues. For Joseph, life and God are unfair because there are lives that are happy, abundant, and almost perfect, but his was a different story. A vivid memory of childhood when Joseph needs to peek in the smallest hole of the wall of one of his neighbor's house just to watch his favorite show in a black and white television after the doors and windows were intentionally closed. Joseph's first experience of a television was only in 2002, which was loaned from a local appliance store, which was later on sequestered for failing to pay the monthly dues. But Joseph sees the beauty of the light and the dark as they collide and conquer each other during the dramatic sunrise and sunset. Joseph is so fascinated with how each conquers and succumbs to one another when it's their time, rising with dignity and pride. This reminds Joseph something that is promising and beautiful will happen in God's perfect time. Sometimes we need to experience darkness to appreciate the light. The dark may bring fear and agony, but the dark brings out the soul's true beauty. A soul that is brave, vibrant, and will forever remain glowing amidst pain and adversity. There is hope in darkness. With a dying faith and a flickering flame that almost died in his heart, he felt the light illuminating him. Joseph's mother was healed from her cancer without actually undergoing chemotherapy. One by one, each of the eight children completed their studies and became successful in their fields and endeavors, serving the people and most especially God. The greatest blessing of Joseph is having his own family, the people who became his own fans, a family that believes in him, a family that believes in his dreams, a family that never demands, a family that builds Joseph's fading spirit, builds confidence, and builds faith. A family that helps him believes that life may be imperfect, but still is beautiful. Thank you for your time to read my book, to listen to my stories, my masterpiece from the bottom of my heart. I wrote this book, I gave all my heart into it, and the story of Joseph hopes to inspire you and make you believe that life is beautiful. There are so many blessings disguised in heartbreaks and defeats. It is up to where to pull your eyes. But the sunrise and sunset are golden. They bring along a treasure disguised in the dark. Coincidence are actually destinies disguised as the rain reveal itself in a multiple amazing colors called life. Dance in the rain and see the promise of a bright tomorrow. Every individual has a story to tell, rich or poor, man and woman, young and old, married or single. It is not the problem that makes our life happy or sad. We might believe that ours is the worst, and that those who can still smile and find happiness amidst the imperfections of life are blessed and favored. But we are wrong. A person who was able to master the 10 principles for a happy, fulfilling, and purpose driven life is the one who can always bounce back after a traumatic downfall. Bouncing back to self, to family, to career, to friends, to higher purpose, and most importantly, to God, is a life well lived and a life with purpose. You deserve to have a happy, fulfilling, and purpose driven life because you are special and love. This is Roel G. Olila, the author of the book Bouncing Back, and I am saying to you, umunawa, magpatawad, at magmahal. I would like to begin with this message taken from the movie Mulan, stating that a flower that blooms in adversity is the most beautiful of all. The first principle: recognize God's unfathomable wisdom. The God in me recognizes the God in you. God has endowed man with unlimited potentials. The philosophical principles of man's creations, his purpose, together with man's gifts and potentials are built in, packed in a single body. God did not deprive anyone of his beloved children and never allows them to live in misery, for God has created man in his own image and likeness. Namaste, an old Hindu saying that God in me recognizes the God in you, is a proof that in man there is a bit of God, a part of His holiness, and a part of His wisdom. And God's presence lives and stays in the conscience, not to threaten, not to impose, but to always remind man about his gifts, his talents, his virtues, his destiny, his purpose, his holiness, a flesh that serves as a temple of God. Human usually blame destiny and fate as a culprit to his sufferings, saying that they are born and fated to be. Man doesn't realize that he has a very special role in designing and redesigning his or her own destiny. That aside from the divine hand, there are personal choices that drastically alter what has been destined to us. Man is a consequence of the divine hand and his or her personal choices. Man only recognizes God in his lowest, but forgets in his happiest, when in the height of ecstasy. Never consulted, never prayed for guidance, never prayed for wisdom, did his own decisions, and then blames God when every endeavor has turned into waste. Life is an interplay between fate, destiny, accident, and personal choice. When two individuals meet with two different intentions along the way, it is accident. But when that meeting started something leading to these two to their promises of forever, it is destiny. I can still remember a question asked by an engineering student saying that what is the use of saying take care if what will happen to us after is no longer our control? And so saying take care is useless and having no value at all. To be honest, this is a very simple question that I can simply ignore. But as a teacher, I strongly believe that this student hungers for meaning and enlightenment that none among his acquaintances was able to shed light. If this question was ignored and left unanswered, I am afraid that he might believe that God plays favorites and has a special treatment because there are happy and fulfilling lives, and yet there are those who live in misery. I answered back, yes, it is useless to say take care when afterwards we don't know what will happen to us. I might meet an accident, get injured, then might die just before I arrive at the hospital. Yes, you are right. But you know what? I can choose to die right now in front of you. Let me ask you, is my death according to God's plan and design for me? We always blame God for all the miseries of life and the sufferings that we endure in our life. But we fail to realize that aside from God's design, there is another controlling variable, our personal choice. Conscience can only remind, but man can still choose these desires because man is gifted with free will, a freedom that makes us more human. We can always choose a path different from what has been laid to us by God. This path is a path that leads to sin and miserable life. A path without God is a life path with danger. And when our personal decision fails, we blame God.